Summer holidays may not be top of our agendas at the moment, but there are plenty of countries whose tourism industry wishes we were there. Damien Grammaticus reported from one of them on the programme last week.
In Benidorm City, we're now 20 floors up. This is called Planta 20, a bar on top of the Hotel Madeira and looking out over the empty town. All the streets that radiate out below are deserted. The hotels that line them are totally empty. The beach down in front of me, which stretches around two big curves of golden sand, is beautiful, but also empty. And this town was built for tourists. All of the income here comes from tourism, and that has completely ground to a halt.
Benidorm, just one of the many tourist destinations facing some dark economic clouds. But some European countries are now thinking about ways of resuscitating this year's holiday season, with Germany making an early bid for the beach. Yesterday, the German Tourism Commissioner Thomas Bareis said that his government was in talks to create Corona corridors to neighbouring countries, potentially allowing Germans to drive to the French Riviera or for Poles to take the train to Berlin. He hinted that deals like these could even be struck with more far-flung destinations such as Greece or the Canary Islands, as long as they had low infection rates. So is this the way forward for opening up tourism in Europe? Well, earlier I spoke to Tom Jenkins, Chief Executive of the European Tour Operators Association, and José Ramón, a Spanish member of the European Parliament who used to be president of Spain's Balearic Islands. He told me what impact the pandemic has had on the islands.
Our GDP depends almost completely on tourism. There are hundreds of thousands of jobs that are going to get lost, and millions of euros in losses that are going to affect just this season, but also the following one. I can tell you, as a former president of Balearic Islands, for us it's an absolutely dramatic situation because the season has finished even before it started.
So when you hear the German Tourism Commissioner suggest this idea of Corona corridors, of Germans in the first instance going to countries that might be safe, where infection rates are low, does that fill you with some encouragement?
Yeah, I couldn't believe that an authority said that, because what they are doing is just to divide. What we are doing right now is to find a common approach to fight against the coronavirus. And in tourism, this common approach will transform into giving both safety and confidence to tourists to travel. No one is going to travel if they think that they are going to be infected. So we need to assure that there are common standards among Europe that countries must fulfill in order not only to keep confidence, but also to keep them safe.
Let me bring you in at this point, Tom Jenkins. What do you make of that objection? Do you also think there needs to be a common approach, that bilateral deals, if you like, of this sort won't work?
I think that the situation is so dire in the tourism industry in Europe that the situation can only be alleviated by a common approach. And I think the European Commission, which has been largely sidelined by the nation states in Europe doing their own thing, will start to step up and start to try and coordinate. I suppose the point Germany is making is there are not common levels of infection in all the European countries, are there? So in terms of safety of tourists, there are different standards. Well, we genuinely don't know at the moment. With respect to the German authorities, this is a pandemic. It is everywhere. But what we're having is a really critical damaging of the European economy, of which tourism is an integral part. And I think what we'll be looking at within the next 6 weeks is a dramatic lifting of restrictions. It's widely expected that the recovery in tourism will start with domestic tourism. And what the European Commission, I think, will be trying to do is ensure that the domestic tourism market within Europe is the Schengen area. It will be 500 million people. And this gives something for the tourism industry to tilt for.
So individual countries can't exist on staycations, can they?
No, they can't. In many cities, in the Balearic Islands, it's of central importance. But even in towns such as Paris or London or Amsterdam, tourism makes up maybe 15-20% of the service economy. But if you're running a business and you lose 20% of your business is going critical. So the whole service economy of Europe is now in a coma, and it's likely to be revived fairly shortly. But if they haven't got tourism flowing through its veins, they're going to have real problems. And so you're going to need to have a really big, not a piecemeal, but a big restoration in confidence somehow throughout Europe. Otherwise, we're going to be not in a recession, but we'll be in a depression.
Jose, if the Germans go ahead with this plan, what do you fear?
I'm sure they can go ahead. We need to show tourists that Europe is safe, whenever it's going to be safe, that there are criteria that they can trust and that the EU is going to take care of them. We need to work together in order to give confidence to the tourism. If we don't do that, we will lose not only this season, we will lose even the next one.
Tom Jenkins, you talk about Schengen essentially being, one space, considered as one space. But what about tourists coming from outside Europe? How important will they be for the European tourism industry this year?
Well, I mean, they are rather like tourism in the whole of the service economy. They are a vital 10 to 15% of the European tourism economy. And one of the problems we've got with the idea of COVID corridors is that it means that Europe is going to be opened up on a kind of piecemeal basis, which really isn't a product we can sell in America, China or Japan. I mean, we need to have Europe as a single destination.
Why not? Why don't the Chinese and the Americans go to certain European countries rather than others?
Well, they do, but they see Europe as a unitary destination, albeit with the UK as a sort of appendix. But they buy Europe, and most of them visit more than one country.
Can I ask both of you whether when you look ahead at the summer season, whether you see cause for optimism? Do you think, Jose, that there will be tourists back in the Balearics over summer?
Yes, and I have proposed something called Brand Europe, so that Europeans know that they can travel all around Europe and that this summer is the perfect timing to discover a safe and, of course, a wonderful EU. Our economy needs this desperately, and our tourism sector is ready to receive Europeans.
Tom Jenkins, how optimistic are you about the coming season?
I'm surrounded by pessimists. I'm delighted to hear Jose being so optimistic. I think from an inbound point of view, Europe selling itself as a destination throughout the world will be very lucky to see any significant arrivals from outside of Europe, from America, from China, from Japan, much before September or October. And I have plenty of people thinking that will not start moving before 2021. In terms of intra-European traffic, there is everything to play for.